Aiden had not seen his father for over a decade. They had a falling out when he was a teenager, and he never forgave him for leaving him and his mother. He heard that his father had died of a heart attack a few days ago, and he felt nothing but relief. Aiden decided to go to his funeral, not to pay his respects, but to make sure he was really gone. He arrived at the cemetery, where a small group of mourners had gathered around a freshly dug grave. He recognized his father's second wife, a young woman who looked more like his sister than his stepmother. She was sobbing uncontrollably, clutching a bouquet of roses. He also saw his half-brother, a boy of 7, who looked confused and scared. He felt a pang of pity for him, but he quickly suppressed it. He did not care about them. He only cared about seeing his father's coffin lowered into the ground. He walked towards the grave, ignoring the stares and whispers of the other people. He reached the edge of the hole and looked down. There it was, a simple wooden box with a brass plaque that read, "John Smith, 1978 to 2024, beloved husband and father." He felt a surge of anger and resentment. How dare he call himself a father? He was a coward, a liar, a cheat. He abandoned his family and never looked back. He did not deserve to be loved. He did not deserve to rest in peace. He spat on the coffin and said in a loud voice, "Good riddance, you bastard. I hope you rot in hell." The crowd gasped, and his stepmother screamed. His half-brother started crying. He did not care. He felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. He had said what he wanted to say. He had given his father the farewell he deserved. He turned to leave, but then he heard something that made him stop. A faint sound coming from the coffin, a sound that chilled him to the bone. A knock. He froze and looked back at the grave. He thought he had imagined it, but then he heard it again. A knock, followed by a muffled voice. "Help me. Please help me. I'm not dead. I'm alive." He felt a wave of shock and disbelief. He thought he was hallucinating, but then he saw the coffin lid move slightly as if someone was trying to push it open. He heard the voice again, louder and more desperate. "Help me. Please help me. I'm not dead. I'm alive. It's a mistake. They buried me alive. Please, get me out of here. Please, son, help me." He realized it was his father's voice. His father, who was supposed to be dead, but was somehow alive and trapped in a coffin, 6 feet under. His father, who was begging him for help, calling him son. He felt a mix of emotions: fear, confusion, disbelief, guilt, pity, rage. He did not know what to do. He did not know what to think. He did not know what to feel. He looked around and saw that the others had heard it too. They were staring at the grave with horror and disbelief on their faces. Some of them were screaming. Some of them were praying. Some of them were running away. No one was doing anything to help. He looked at his stepmother, who had fainted in the arms of a man. He looked at his half-brother, who was hiding behind a tombstone, covering his ears. He looked at his father's coffin, which was still knocking and pleading. He had a choice to make. He could walk away and leave his father to his fate. He could pretend he did not hear anything and let him die a slow and agonizing death. He could get his revenge and make him pay for what he had done, or he could help him. He could grab a shovel and start digging. He could try to save his father's life and give him a second chance. He could forgive him and make peace with him. He didn't know what to do. He did not know what to think. He did not know what to feel. He stood there paralyzed as the knocking and the pleading continued. "Help me. Please help me. I'm not dead. I'm alive. Please, son, help me. Aiden felt a surge of adrenaline and made his decision. He grabbed a shovel and started digging. He did not care what the others thought. He did not care what he thought. He only cared about saving his father's life. He dug frantically, throwing dirt aside as the knocking and the pleading grew louder and more urgent. Help me. Please, help me. I'm not dead. I'm alive. Please, son, help me. I'm running out of air. Please hurry. He reached the coffin and tried to pry it open. It was locked. He smashed the shovel against the lock until it broke. He lifted the lid and saw his father's face. His father's pale, lifeless face. His father's eyes were closed and his mouth was open. His father was not breathing. His father was not moving. His father was not alive. He was dead. He had been dead for a long time. He felt a shock of horror and dropped the shovel. He looked around and saw that there was no one else. There was no crowd, no mourners, no stepmother, no half-brother. There was only him and his father's grave. He realized that he had imagined it all. He had imagined the funeral, the knocking, the pleading, the voice. He had imagined that his father was alive and that he could save him. But it was not true. It was a hallucination caused by his guilt and his madness. He remembered what he had done. He remembered how he had killed his father 5 years ago in a fit of rage. He remembered how he had stabbed him over and over until he stopped moving. His father was begging for help. Help me. I can't breathe, son. He remembered how he had buried him in a shallow grave in the woods. He remembered how he had run away and changed his name and tried to forget. But he could not forget. He could not escape. He was haunted by his father's memory. He was haunted by his own conscience. He was haunted by his own insanity.